evening, folks. Good evening. Welcome to the World of Football podcast live on the Dugout Football channel. I hope everyone has had a very good weekend. It's Monday evening. It's 7 o'clock. You know what that time is. It is time for the podcast. Let me introduce my co-host, Josh. How are you doing?
Good evening, everyone. We're here for episode 3. It's episode 3 already. It's flying past, isn't it?
I know. It's been very, very good, Reece. Very, very good, and I'm sure tonight will be no exception as well. Also joined by Reece as well. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. Welcome to my show.
That's your catchphrase as well.
It's the greatest catchphrase on Twitter and YouTube.
And we are joined by an absolute legend of YouTube. It is Dan Cullender from Know the Score podcast, Dan XG and Dan FG. Dan, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm very well, mate. Very, very well. Appreciate you inviting me on.
Dan's still smiling from Tottenham 3, West Ham 3. Yeah.
Honestly, yeah. I'll be smiling for the rest of the season. I'm not going to let any Tottenham fans hear the last of it either.
Especially when you've got goal of the season already.
Oh, it's just the thing that's mad about it is 3-0 in 16 minutes. They've won the game. Everyone's given up on it. Every West Ham fan, every Tottenham fan has given up on it. And then the last 10 minutes we go and do that. It was, and it can't happen to a better team either. Like it couldn't have happened for us to a better team for Spurs to capitulate in that way.
It seems to be a regular occurrence for the London clubs. They like bottling 3-0 leads at the minute.
We can actually see what Josh looks like.
He's gonna. You've just bullied him. Keep going, folks. Keep going. Get in the chat.
No.
Proper bullying.
No. They're there for you as well, Reece.
Bring it.
Reece isn't walking the dog in the rain. We can finally see Josh.
It's actually quite dry tonight.
Reece for once isn't walking through the streets. Is that the show?
What I quite enjoy about this is that just before we went live, I was going, "Oh look, I can see Josh. He's not lurking in the darkness." And then I was like, I was watching the podcast the other week, and Reece was walking his dog or something. I was like, "You've gone rogue on this podcast," but
right, let's start a whole new level.
Yeah.
Well, good evening to everyone in the chat, and obviously get your opinions in the chat as well, and we will read them out now. Oh, here we go. Look who's joined us, Reece. Chris Ellis. It's my show.
He knows who runs the joint.
Go and subscribe to Villa Together the Lions Road as well. A great channel and a great friend as well. Right, let's start. And some big games started at the weekend, which was El Clasico. Now, it has to be said, this was probably one of the only El Clasicos that I didn't watch. It was at 3 o'clock. Real Madrid won the game 3-1. But you have to say, Real Madrid were the better team throughout that game. Barcelona equalised through Ansu Fati. But goals from was it Modric, and I think one was Ramos as well. Kind of shows how poor El Clasico has been, and Real Madrid managed to stifle Messi of any clear-cut opportunities. I'll come to Josh first. Is this a sign that Barcelona and Real Madrid games are getting poorer?
Well, it was a match with two managers who are tactically clueless. One with Koeman got tactically done by Zidane, and when you get tactically done by Zidane, there's something wrong with you. Zidane is one of those managers who can, he will, come up with a masterpiece. I think it was just a very simple. I think it was very simple. It was Real Madrid were working as a team, and Barcelona were relying on Messi. And Messi was non-existent on the pitch. Barcelona were non-existent, and Barcelona won the game. I think it was that simple.
Yeah, it's you kind of argue that it's kind of two poor teams that are definitely needing a clear out. There's no denying that, and I think we have to say that Barcelona are a team in transition. You could argue Real Madrid are potentially
just the about Barcelona. Bartomeu used to speak to the press at 7:30. And apparently it's a big announcement.
Hopefully it's him saying I'm done.
Just add that to it.
Well, as soon as we hear anything, we will be the first to know. Dan, what have you made of Real Madrid and Barcelona this season?
Well, Barca are clearly a team in need of a massive overhaul. Obviously, all the stuff that went on in the summer didn't help. Messi threatening to leave, and we all thought that we potentially were going to get to watch him in the Premier League for a couple of years, didn't we? Because City really are one of the only clubs in the world with the pulling power to have brought him in, but that didn't happen. He's been forced to stay there for another year. That can't be helping, can it? The fact that there's friction between Messi and the presidency, the board, and whatnot. There's frictions there. They've kind of had to come to a deal to keep him there for a season. That can't be helping behind closed doors. The squad is aging drastically. I think it's got an average age of 30 or 31, something mad like that. And then they got done by a more youthful, together Real Madrid team at the weekend. I didn't watch the game live. It was a 3:00 kickoff. So all the Premier League and Championship games were on. I tend to watch that instead. But I did catch the highlights, and Real Madrid were just a better team. But Real Madrid, again, they're another team that, Josh has already sort of made a point about Zidane. Zidane's probably going to go down in history as a good manager because he's won Champions Leagues. But my dog could win a Champions League with Real Madrid a few years ago. That's how good their team was. You don't need to be a good manager. But the fact that, Koeman's being tactically done by Zidane, I think that says all you need to know about the Clasico. I am lucky enough to have been to a Clasico. I went a few years ago and it was decent, but that one at the weekend, from what I've watched, weren't really all that.
I suppose this comment sort of comes up. Hang on a minute. Yeah, this is a good point. There was a stat before El Clasico saying whenever Real Madrid lose 3 games in a row, they sack their manager. If they got beat, Zidane could have been sacked, but his team won. Yeah, I mean, look, Real Madrid. I mean, let's be honest. Nobody saw them losing to Shakhtar. I think that's a first thing you can say, and the second thing is, I don't think anyone expected that game to be. I think you said, Reece, a couple of weeks ago that you saw those games being draws, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I said if anyone remembers episode 1, I comfortably said both El Clasicos would be 3-3 draws. Says all that I actually got near enough a score spot on because Real Madrid did put 3 past this Barcelona team, and it says it all that you can predict a game 2 weeks in advance. The reason I know that is because, like I said, they are in transition, but we discussed it on episode 1 just how bad Barcelona are. Messi makes about 40 million a year. That's Nelson Semedo paid off. That's pretty much the Nelson Semedo transfer going to Messi. Barcelona, if they want to return to the top of Spanish football and world football, you get rid of Messi now. Done. I don't you can go for me in the chat. I don't care. And I'm saying this as well, by the way. Champions League, I've already put it on Doug's comments. If you want to have a look, go check. I put Champions League predictions 1-1 Juventus Barcelona. Ronaldo and Messi won't score on Wednesday. I guarantee you they won't score because it's too big a game, and it's not going to. Yes, Ronaldo and Messi are big game players, but they're not big game players that are going to win the game now because Pirlo is still getting used to management. So Ronaldo can't win anything, and it shows it all the weekend when they were so poor. No wonder they're not top of the league. They're not even going to fight. They're not even fighting for the league at the minute. That says it all.
Yeah.
And I seen a perfect comment today saying that Ibrahimovic is a better big game player than Ronaldo because he's actually having a bigger impact. That's accurate.
That is very accurate.
But do I see changes coming for both teams? No. I don't expect Real Madrid to get even near the quarterfinals of the Champions League this year. I think they'll get beaten in the last 16. I've said Mönchengladbach are going to beat them 4-2. And I'm sticking with it. Barcelona aren't probably not even going to get out their group. And I know that's a bold thing saying, it's Barcelona and they've got such an easy group, but Barcelona are in dire need of rebuilding and they've not got the resources. They don't have the board to deal with it. Koeman's a good manager, but unfortunately he is screwed regardless. He could win the treble and he would still lose his job. It's guaranteed this new president, Juan Xavi, who is very little experienced, he wouldn't even do good for Barcelona as a manager. That says all, and he's a fantastic football player. But just because you're a great player doesn't mean you're going to be a great manager. and Zidane's tactically inept.
Yeah, this is a good comment from Pete. There's a legitimate chance that City could throw 25 million at Barcelona in January to bring Messi in. Otherwise, Barcelona lose him for nothing in the window. How realistic do we all think that could be? I'll come to Dan with that one first. Do you think City?
I'm not sure if they leave it as late as January, they'd even have to pay a fee. They could sign him on a Bosman. In this country, we have the Bosman rule. 6 months, last 6 months of your contract, you can approach the player, you essentially sign them for free. You let them run down the last few months, but you can agree personal terms 6 months before. So they might not even have to pay the 25 million. You know, the thing is, it's like City, if he goes City, he's reunited with Pep. And then maybe the last 2 or 3 years of his career, he could probably get back to playing the Messi-esque. But, you know, we're talking about Ronaldo and Messi. They're both reaching the twilight years of their career. They're both eventually going to start to go on a bit of a downward spiral. Messi was always going to go before Ronaldo because Ronaldo is just a physical freak and he looks after himself in a way that no other footballer does. You know, like the fact that when he come back, the fact that after Project Restart began, the physio at Juve said, he's got the heart of a 21-year-old. He's 37 years of age. They said he was fitter than most 21-year-olds. I think that shows you like what we're talking about with Ronaldo. And you never hear any of this stuff with Messi. I'm not saying that like, you know, they've got to be the same, but you never hear of this stuff. I do think that Messi is on a downward spiral quicker than Ronaldo, and Messi's a few years younger as well, but he didn't have the impact in the Clasico at the weekend like he usually does. I think that goes, you know, that goes a long way to say like he's not enjoying his football either. You can tell he's not really enjoying his football. Usually he would have taken a game like the Clasico by the bollocks. You know, he's done it in the past. Like I've seen Messi run rings around Real Madrid when they had some of the best teams they've put together. He didn't look bothered from the highlights and stuff I watched. He really didn't look bothered.
I don't think he cares about football anymore. I generally think he's more interested in picking up a paycheck. I think that's all he is. And I remember teams long before Messi. I mean, I remember the Barcelona team when it was Zidane. Not Zidane. Sorry, I'm thinking of the Real Madrid team at the time. Ronaldinho, Eto'o, and Ludovic Giuli. That was a front three, I remember, because it was a far more interesting front three. And then you had the Real Madrid team that had Ronaldo up front, Zidane behind him, Figo on the right, and Raul in there as well. That was a much more interesting team. I remember the early 2000s Real Madrid team more than any other Spanish team. And it's because of how wonderful it was to watch. Morientes and Raul up front, Redondo behind them. You had Makelele in midfield with Zidane and Figo. You weren't stopping that. But now you've got like Vinicius Jr., Rodrigo, and then you've got Ansu Fati, who is practically a nobody. He's actually extremely overrated, by the way. I mean, I like the player. He's going to have a great future, but at the moment, he's overrated.
But this happens though, Reece. 17-year-old breaks through, scores a couple of goals, and because of the nature of social media and the nature of the way the football media works, it's like, let's big him up. You know, it happened with Wayne Rooney. Wayne Rooney broke through as a near-on 17-year-old, put that one in the top corner past Seaman. Oh, he's the next best thing. Unfortunately, that is just the way the media like to spin things. You know, like you're never going to tell, are you? Until a player really reaches 21, 22, you're never really going to tell where they're really going with their career.
Well,
that's why Mbappe's screwed if he goes to Real Madrid now. Like Mbappe's a fantastic player, but if he goes to Real Madrid right now, he may as well stay in the Farmers League. He's got
a better team around him at the minute. If he went to Madrid, let's be honest, he's definitely got better players around him at PSG than he would if he went to Real Madrid at the moment. Like their team's nothing compared to what it used to be like.
Yeah. Well, so since Doug has disappeared, obviously with internet problems, my job is to coach to kind of keep things flowing. They get just thrown in the deep end. So the question is to you, Dan. If the way Real Madrid and Barcelona are, they're both inconsistent. You know, Real Madrid have obviously lost to Shakhtar Donetsk in the Champions League quite heavily. They lost to a new relegated team at the Bernabeu. Is this the year Atletico Madrid and Simeone should win La Liga, or do you think that their Simeone's football with the attacking players that he has will be his own downfall? That the fact he'll not win those games. The
door's open for Simeone to do it, but unfortunately, Simeone, he's a defensive coach, and he cares far more about that end of the pitch than he does scoring goals. It's a weird. I always thought it was a weird one when he bought João Felix. I thought that was a weird signing because he never fit that. He doesn't fit that Atletico Madrid style of play at all. And then a lot of people were saying like year one, that's a flop. This a flop signing, but it's not. He just doesn't fit the system. There's a good player there. It's clearly a very good player in João Felix, but he just doesn't fit that system. You would think this is their year with Real Madrid and Barcelona being so inconsistent. I think Barcelona are going to be lucky to finish in the top 6. I really, really do with the way they're playing at the moment. You would like to think it's their year, but let's be honest. Like if the similar thing happens in the Liga to what's happening in the Premier League at the moment, it's anybody's year. Do you know what I mean? It's just football is just weird at the moment.
The better class. Yeah, I agree. I think it's the year for Atletico. I mean, right now it says all that Real Sociedad are top of the league, but I do expect to see more from Atletico Madrid more than any team in that league. They've got no excuses. They've got perhaps the best front. They've got perhaps the best front two in the league, and Dogface Suarez and Diego Shithouse Costa. But that's a complimentary front line there. You've got a shithouse Psycho and Diego Costa, and you've got somebody that likes to bite people. I mean, cannibalism is running free in the Metropolitano Stadium. But do I think they're going to win the league? No. And the reason is, as Dan's pointed out, is the defence. Like Diego Simeone's got such fantastic forward thinking and attack many players that he inhibits them. I mean, he's got Angel Carrera and he's got Thomas Lemar as like wingers, but he doesn't even use them properly. And he's got the perfect midfield creative duo in Koke and Sal Niguez. He would have been so much.
Can we
going
just
forward.
say, before Thomas Partey left for Arsenal, if Simeone played a 4-3-3 with Koke, Sal and Partey, that
they would have won the league.
That would have been but he obviously sticks to that 4-4-2 until the death of him.
If they'd kept Partey, I would have put Atletico Madrid to win both the Champions League and La Liga this year. But they sold Partey, so they've not got that extra engine in midfield to supplement the creative impact of Koke and Sal Niguez. So that's why I'm saying they'll focus more on the league because this is the best chance. But I'm thinking La Liga is going to be either Sevilla or Real Madrid.
Ooh, yeah, Sevilla's a good shout.
They're my dark horse pick.
The only one having a party at the Emirates was Jamie Vardy at the weekend. Sorry, had to put that in.
He loves it.
How
he loves it.
You know how people are doing that pray for Van Dijk thing, like they're like the wild bizarre Twitter thing that's going on saying I'll pray for Van Dijk. There was tweets like just before the Leicester and the Leicester games and all that, and the Man City game saying pray for Leicester, play for City. And obviously they went 1-0 and they're like, oh, they didn't die after all.
So, Arsenal, when Thomas Partey was coming out for his warm-ups at the Emirates, they actually played a Thomas Partey tune just for him.
I know it.
Which was really, really weird, but But you're back, Doug. I can go back to just talking. I don't have to do any more leading.
The more interesting Clasico game is the Der Klassiker, which is this weekend, and it's going to be Dortmund 4, Bayern 1. Bold prediction because it's entertaining, folks. I prefer Leipzig. That's why I'm saying I want Bayern to lose because obviously Leipzig are sitting top of the league.
Joe, as someone who follows Dortmund, mate, like Favre needs his head checked at the minute. All that talent and he doesn't do anything with it.
How has he not been sacked yet? I'll never know.
It's a weird one, mate.
He's got the best forward line. He's got perhaps the best natural forward line in the league. Obviously, people are going to disagree saying, oh, Gnabry, Coman, Sane, and then you've got Lewandowski. But I mean, in terms of like getting goals and assists, like Haaland has been in the league less than a year and he's banging them in left, right, and centre. Jadon Sancho gets 20 goals and assists like every season, and you've got Torgan Hazard or Rafael Carrero, who is just an outsider left wing option, and you're like, Jesus, why is he not playing to their strengths? And that says, that's why
a weird one.
That's why Nagelsmann's clear.
Kian said, I've always preferred our Classicer anyway, but in the last 3 years, it's easily the game I prefer to watch. Yeah, absolutely.
Good man.
You've got that on like BT Sport, and again, that's good. That's on Halloween. So, Saturday is Halloween. So, that's going to be a fantastic game of football. But I agree with Keane. I think Der Klassiker is the one to watch now. I think El Clasico is sort of maybe falling behind the likes of, Inter and AC and, Dortmund and Bayern.
The Bundesliga is The Bundesliga is one of the finest leagues out there to watch. Like if you ever fancy a break from the Premier League for a weekend, go and watch the Bundesliga, and you will not be disappointed. It's a fantastic league to watch.
I'm the same. Like,
Really
I'm a big fan of the Bundesliga. I'm a big fan of Serie A. I watch, like, obviously AC Milan's playing Roma right now, so I'm hoping for a Rossoneri win. Have Italian, obviously, and they're my reps. I'm hoping that you see something like that. Also, to agree with Kian, he mentioned Haaland's 2018 goals is not a goal machine. He's a phenom. That's Haaland in a nutshell. He is a phenom.
Yeah,
he's like he is the best young striker in world football, and there's no one that comes close. And obviously, I'm a big Werner fan, but Haaland is clear of Werner. But how Favre has not managed to sort this Dortmund team, I don't know, because he could have won the league last year if he had just sorted his team.
They bottled it massively. Yeah, they bottled it massively.
The back three doesn't work. The back three does not work with Dortmund, but he'll stick by. He's sticking by it. The back three doesn't work. He doesn't have the centre backs for it.
True. Leipzig bottled it, even though we're top of the league. But the difference is that's Nagelsmann's first season in charge of an even bigger team in the league. So he's going to get used to that. So Nagelsmann's had his 1 year of getting used to it. So he gets a free pass. But Favre's an experienced manager.
That's a very good point. How did Dortmund, the team they have, get beat off Lazio?
Italian team's defence, mate. That's what it is.
That's what Italian teams do. They know how to defend.
I said it on my Champions League predictions video, and you go and have a look. I said Lazio are my dark horses this season for the Champions League.
Well, they've got, Lazio have got Immobile up front, who is honestly in the form of his life, hasn't he, the last few years. So, if you've got a striker who can score goals, then you always have a chance.
They've also got a perfect midfield balance of Lucas Leiva in the holding role, which is, I can't believe I've just said that. But you've got Leiva in the defence midfield role, then you've got Sergei Milinkovic-Savic playing beside Luis Alberto, and that's a fantastic goal machine. And then also they've got their own Carrera as a centre forward playing just behind Immobile, and their back three system works perfectly. I mean, Dortmund should look into that more, but that's because Inzaghi knows how to organise a defence. Mats Hummels needs to be taken out of that Dortmund team. He isn't that good anymore.
Very quickly, there was a game being played tonight. Brighton have drawn 1-1 with West Brom. Carlon Grant getting his first goal for West Brom. It was a Jake Livermore own goal for Brighton. However, keep an eye on the stories, because there was a story breaking today that Slaven Bilic's future as West Brom manager is in serious doubt after the board sold Ahmed Aghazi behind his back. So that's one to...
not surprised there. Didn't we not agree on him? Didn't we not agree on him last week that he'd be the first to be sacked, or was it Parker?
He's not being sacked, though. He's walking away.
He'll get sacked. They won't let him walk away. West Brom are no like that at all. They'll be like, nah, mate.
They've got the most ironic name for a chairman, though. Jeremy Peace.
That's true.
Moving swiftly on, as we have Dan, he'll be a very, very happy Hammer, because West Ham, it has to be said, if you'd given a run of games such as Leicester City, Tottenham, and Manchester City, how many points would you have expected them to get? Now,
none.
They've got 5 out of 9, which is unbelievable.
Well, all I'm going to say, Doug, before you finish is I'm going to take all of the plaudits for our great start to the season, because I was so negative at the beginning of the year. I said we are going to finish 20th, we're going to be shit, and I reckon they watched and they took note, and they were like, we're going to prove this fucker wrong. We're going to go out there and we're going to get the points. We're going to do it.
You know what the best thing is about that West Ham start to the run? Where was your manager? He wasn't present.
Yeah, since he's come back 2 draws.
Success. That's the key to Hammer success.
The thing is, Moisey looks so clueless in that picture, but see, that was the face at 3-0 down against Spurs, and then there's
Oh fuck me! Cheers, lads.
Yeah, so...
At least we're not discussing a certain result that proper pissed me and Josh off. All right.
We'll get to that.
You're getting dealt with.
But here's my question to you, Dan. Or do you bet you're wrong about Moisey, or do you think that Antonio's just a superstar who's carrying the team on his back a wee bit?
I think we do have to give some credit to Moyes. I think Moyes has got an 11 he likes, and he's getting the best out of them. I'm not going to sit here and say he's a good football manager. I'm not, because I just don't believe it. I don't believe that he's a good manager. But it's very peak Everton, isn't it? He had when he was at Everton, he had an 11 that he liked, and he went to that 11, and they always went out there and did a job for him. And if you look at us, he's putting the same 11 out. You know, like we've got a 45 million pound striker sitting on the bench who can't get in there over, you know, the Mark Henry of football in Antonio. Like he can't get in there ahead of him, can he? Do you know what I mean? So like, this is what's mad about it. So he's found an 11 that he likes. He's putting it out there, and they're just doing the business. They're doing an absolute job. I
have to ask you, right? So obviously we all know West Ham don't have a ton of first team players. You know, I think you've got you've got 16 or 17 first team players at least.
It's one of the lightest squads in the league.
So why did you sell Dean, that guy to young kid to West Brom, and then why did you also loan out Felipe Anderson, who could get into your starting lineup?
That was a massive mistake.
I don't know why Felipe Anderson left.
It's money. As a West Ham fan, I know this all too well. You know, other fans will look in and always ask the questions: "What the fuck is going on?" But as a West Ham fan, I can tell you it's the board. This board are money hungry. All they care about is the pound sign, mate. And if they think they can make a bit of money off a player, they will. You know, what's really, really funny about it is that they sold Diangana for 18 million quid. And when they were asked why he was sold, they said, we've got 8 first-team wingers in the club. Now, I couldn't name 4, let alone 8 at the time. But apparently we had 8 players that could play on the wings, and that's one of the reasons why they sold him. You get to deadline day, they buy another winger. Well, that doesn't make sense to me. You've sold one, and you've then gone and signed this player for more money than you've sold that one for. But it turns out that Ben Rama's agent is Salthouse, and Salthouse is one of Sullivan's best mates. So essentially, he just got his best mate at payday. I guarantee you, lads, do not expect Ben Rama to play. It's not a David Moyes signing. It's a ball signing. He ain't going to fit in Moyes' system. He's just going to be one of those players who's going to have been signed because it was a mate helping out a mate. It's honestly, the club is run like a circus. It really, really is. And, you know, you've got the monkeys up there in, you know, the fucking in the board. They're awful. Like they're just literally just counting their money until they leave. They will leave. The minute they can earn 100% profit, they will sell the club. But at the minute they can't, because of the deals that are in place with, you know, with the governing bodies that, you know, with the Olympics and the deal with the stadium, they can't make the money on it basically. So until that's up in, I think it's 2023, they'll be there till then, and then they'll just sell up. It's just money. At the end of the day, I say it time and time again. It's great to see us doing well on the football pitch, and I will always support the team, but fuck the regime. You got to get the ball out of the club.
This is why me and you, Dan, are going to get on like in this podcast. And we're going to get on really well because I'm a United fan and I'm suffering by clowns. Now I love Americans. I hate the Glazers. Like honestly, if the Americans could just take the Glazers out of their home in Florida, dump them in, as they say, a gator swamp, whatever they fucking call it, chuck them in a lake, fill with alligators, let them have a flaming feast. I'd be happy. Because our board are a bunch of cunts. Like, there's no filter on me. There's no filter. They're cunts. And you're equally as bad because you've got Sullivan and goal, who are complete arseholes. Mm-hmm. You've got, I don't know her name, but you've got a woman in charge.
Karen Brady.
Yeah, she's a complete utter clown. She doesn't even know what she's doing.
So we have Brady to thank.
Carnero is a better runner of football than her.
So we have Karen Brady is the one we actually have to thank for having the London Stadium. She's the
only good thing, but the rest of it still sucks. I mean, you would rather have Carnero.
I mean that sarcastically, mate. It's not great. Yeah. It's not a great place to watch football. It really, really isn't. And like she was the one that dealt with it.
Yeah, it's horrid how far you've fallen. Same for United in the sense of the same sort of thing is like we've fallen that far because of poor management from both board level and owners. That it's getting to the point where now we're like, how the fuck are fans supposed to enjoy this when we're being torn apart by owners that don't give a fuck because they don't understand what football means to us.
Got two things to say because I think Dan will know this very well. When Moyes and the other 2 players tested positive for COVID, you know, Brady, she got absolutely mocked because she said London Stadium was cleaner than her home. I was all over my Twitter after those positive COVID tests. She was just being mocked about how she was remarks she made about the London Stadium.
She probably lives at the London Stadium, mate.
And then the thing about Reece, you wouldn't buy Sancho for the 120 million. Yeah, obviously the Glazers who own the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFL just signed Antonio Brown, who's on 130 million over the next 2 years. So that just shows where their priorities are.
Yep, pisses me off, mate. Pisses me off. Like they're using the greatest club in world football to fund a bunch of wankers. Simple as that. Like honestly, tonight, Bill, if you're in the chat, mate, you're not getting Reece rant, you're getting Reece pissed off. There you go. You're getting a different version. Like there's no filter tonight. Once boards get brought up, I'm gonna lose it. And frankly, like we've got the worst board. Spurs have got the worst manager, so frankly, that's entertainment. Chelsea are run by clowns who have put a retired goalkeeper as an emergency goalkeeper because Kepa's a bunch of shit. And they've got a first-team goalkeeper can't pass a ball forward. Arsenal are just Arsenal. City are ran by psychos. Liverpool are just Liverpool, which is even worse.
Reece, calm down. It's okay.
I'm chilled. I'm wearing a Germany top. I'm chilled.
Actually, before I go into that, Liz Golden's asked you a nice question, Dan. Is Karen Brady as awful of a human being as she seems?
Probably. I don't know her personally, but probably. Yeah, she is pretty fucking awful. Do you know what's mental about her? She's got a Sun column. She actually has a column in the Sun where she talks a load of bollocks, basically. And like me personally, I think that if you're like an owner of a football club or you're on the board and you're quite high up, I don't think you should be allowed to do stuff like that. I think your public perception should be at a certain level. Do you know what I mean? And writing a column for that newspaper for a start is pretty bad. But this column, she discusses loads of stuff like that is bollockal to do with football. She and if you read some of the columns or whatnot, there was one where she attacked Kim Kardashian for like absolutely no reason. Now, I'm no Kim K fan, but like you're bullying someone using your column, and I think that goes quite far to tell you what sort of person she is. That she'll use that as a platform to do that.
Chat, I'm fine. To anyone in the chat, I am fine.
I do need to ask, what is her actual role within West Ham? What's her title?
I think she's one of the directors. So she's not like an owner. She's always worked with Sullivan. She worked with him at Birmingham as well. She definitely noshed him under the table. He enjoyed, and he gives her a payday. That's what it is, mate.
She does not know her football at all. She's 100%.
No, she's not. She's
a
not.
businesswoman. She's not a football person.
To be fair, though, Josh. To be fair, Sullivan and Gold are not.
Oh no, they're
clueless with football's.
Do you have a sporting director who does negotiations, or is that done by the owners?
So when Pellegrini came in, they brought Huslis in. And he was director of football, and he was the one dealing with the transfers. Now, obviously, it's well documented that Pellegrini's time wasn't like fantastic, was it? And when he was sacked, Huslis was sacked at the same time, and Sullivan went as far as to saying that they're to blame for West Ham being in the position they are. Like he blamed them because Sullivan's always done the transfers. Now, I don't agree with that either. I don't agree with the chairman being the one that deals with transfers. The chairman is the owner of the football club. Yeah. Like you're just the one that fucking pay. You're the one that, he filters the money down, and you're the one that should just be overseeing the whole thing. But he deals with all the transfer shit. And this is why, like, when it comes to transfers at West Ham, there's always like a deeper meaning for any of the transfers that happen. Like the Ben Rama one, like I've already explained. His agent is a friend of Sullivan's. There was loads of players. There's loads of players that are Salthouse clients, and we were linked with all of them in the summer. And it's no surprise that we were linked with them all because Sullivan would essentially have got his mate a payday.
I've got a fun question for you. I've got a fun question because I've been thinking about it all day, and I reckon I know the answer, right? But here we go. Di Canio as a player or Zola as manager, what to you was more entertaining? Because both were mental.
Well, Di Canio will always be. He's up there, isn't he? At the end of the day, Di Canio's a legend.
I just
Zola weren't given long enough, in my opinion.
It is worrying how things transpired, but I just had to ask.
Always Di Canio, mate. Always Di Canio. He was one of the first players I ever watched that got me arse off the seat. Because we just not had many players like that.
Pete Shepherd says, so I heard an interesting theory. Outside of the injuries to some top players, I heard some pundits suggesting the top teams aren't performing because of the lack of the fans. The theory is the top players can raise their level when the fans give them energy. What do you lads think?
100%. It's like they need the big stage.
It's like an expensive racehorse, Doug. I don't know if any of you watch racing, but Cheltenham, a lot of the big top horses have been pulled out of Cheltenham because they thrive off of the energy, and where it's too quiet, they won't run. And I do think that the top teams are a bit similar. They need, because at the top teams, the players have got bigger egos. They need an audience.
Yeah.
They need people to love them and watch them. And I do think that to some extent they are struggling a little bit.
It's all about the spectacle on the world stage.
I've said this every single week, Lou, on the podcast, but like the NFL, America, who is worse out of the pandemic, got fans. Northern Ireland, in very small grounds, have got fans. How has the English government decided that fans cannot attend games safely with the size of the grounds and the protocols you can have? It makes no sense how they've decided the fans cannot go in until 2021. I think it's a clueless decision. Absolutely clueless.
No, I agree with you, Josh. To be honest with you, mate, I do agree with you. I can't see why we can just have a couple of thousand fans in the ground. So I'm not saying that, like, obviously London Stadium seats 60,000. I'm not saying like let 60,000 back in, but what would it hurt to have 5,000 fans in one of the stands at the ground so they could watch the football? If other sports are doing it.
Yeah,
if other sports are doing it, you know.
It says it all when you can fill it Albert Hall, but you can't put a couple of thousand fans in a stadium.
You know, as that though, when I support Glenavon in the Irish League, our Mornfee could hold 1,200 people. And as I showed in the group chat, you know, we had 430 fans at our last home game. How can you not do that in a Premier League stadium with 5,000? You know, it's just clueless.
No, it is a fair
Makes
point.
no sense at all.
It's better contained in a football stadium than anywhere else. It's far better contained, but it just says it all. And the worst thing is you've got Albert Hall being filled out for concerts that should be happening because they were shit anyway. I seen a stream about the concerts that we've done at Albert Hall. I've never been so bored in my life. But how can they fill out they were all packed together. Why can't you space out fans in a football stadium like Old Trafford? You could space them out easily. So it says it all, but like you can't put in a couple of thousand fans, even at like Anfield or the Emirates, Stamford Bridge. You can't fill out the Etihad because Man City have no fans. So we're making that obvious. But
to be fair, Pete's made an interesting point there about the NFL.
What's he said?
It's based on like state laws. Because obviously America's governed very different to us. It's state to state.
No, they decide.
Yeah,
they've got to apply for it though.
But at the same time, Pete, though, there is more. What the NFL has like 34 teams, and now going into the week 8 of the NFL and Sunday, I think there's only 4 or 5 teams that don't have them. So at the same time, even though your point is valid, at the same time, there's more teams going to NFL games than there is teams in the Premier League. You know, so there's still no reason why the Premier League can't do it.
Seamus makes a good point as well, actually.
Yeah, I think it's more the gatherings outside the stadiums that would be the problem. Yeah, absolutely. Kane Dolan says Ireland's been completely locked down, but elite sports can continue unimpeded. This includes all GAA games. GAA games where the players don't get paid.
Yes, no, that's the same in Northern Ireland. The Irish League.
It's going to be.
No, it's the same in Northern Ireland. The Irish League, GAA, and Ulster Rugby can all have fans in the ground. Though our government wasn't particularly much better. 1 hour before kickoff, when fans were going to a game, our government decided no fans weren't allowed to attend the games when fans were already lining up to get into a game, and there was a whole mess within. Some governments were saying yes, fans can go. Other governments were saying fans can't go. It was the biggest mess in the world, but there is talk though during this whole week about if fans can go to the next 2 weeks of Irish League games. So we're crossing my fingers, we're hoping for the best.
Yeah.
And
I don't
say Chris also spotting lower league clubs to need fans soon.
I don't even know if I want to put this comment up, but I'm going to. It's only a handful of states that are allowing fans. Most of them are southern states because the Republican governors are sucking it.
To be fair, if you're planning on doing that, don't get tested for COVID. Get tested for other things because you never know what he's carrying. That dirty rat.
I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan, and we have we're having fans in at the Sundays game, so we could have fans back in the NFL anyway.
Oh, Reece doesn't like that, Josh. Reece doesn't like that.
Take your Ravens and bolt.
But who do you support? Anyone?
Yeah, bastard. My dad's a Saints fan. I'm a Dolphins fan, man.
Well, the Dolphins are doing well this year.
Obviously, because we're run better.
Yeah.
It took us long enough.
So moving sort of away from like West Ham, and we have to talk about Manchester City now. I put in the.
Do we?
I think, yeah. Well. Let me put it this way. Have Manchester City been unlucky, or are they starting to fall apart?
They're finished.
Neither. It's neither. In my opinion, it's neither. I think it's a mixture of no plan B and injuries. That's what I think it is. But Guardiola, unfortunately, is so stubborn that he won't step away from the only way of playing football that he knows. But the trouble is, the Premier League has worked him out quicker than La Liga and the Bundesliga did. And so, so now he's run into this problem where teams like a West Ham at the weekend can get physical, can sit in and, defend and soak it up and then hit them on the counter. And the thing is as well, this City team ain't the City team of a few years ago either, is it? If we go even as little as 5 years ago, they had David Silva, they had Kompany, they had players in there that, would make a difference. I just think that they're in this sort of weird area where there's a slight transition, but at the same time, there's enough players there that they should be able to transition quicker, but they're not. It just seems like it's taking too long.
I do agree with that, because when you look at the back line of Man City, if you look at the back five, they don't have a focal point in that back five. Ederson's not a commanding goalkeeper. I think Ruben Diaz is a really good potential young centre back, but is he going to come in and fix the problems that Man City have had regarding leadership and just quality in general? No. So when you put all of those things put all those pictures into hindsight, I think Man City are in a transaction when it comes to that, because they don't have that focal point. They've also lost David Silva and expected Fernandinho to be their big captain now, but he's never been a leader. So there is no leader in that Manchester City team. There's no one who will kind of motivate that team on the pitch. Aguero's just got a hamstring injury, so he's out again for longer. They don't have a fit striker. So I think Dan's right, City are in a transition, but there's no reason why Pep Guardiola's City, especially with the way the Premier League's just been really weird this year, should be doing better than what they are at the moment.
But the big problem with Man City as well is Pep Guardiola's been in charge of this team since the 2016, 2017 season, something like that. He's tweaked this team too much that he's went away from the team that was perfectly left by Manuel can't organise a defence Pellegrini. It was sitting perfectly for him to just make little changes here and there. He didn't have to go and make so many changes, and now that team's completely evolved. This Man City team couldn't survive 60 minutes in Stoke. Like that sums it up, just how bad it is now for Guardiola. And Guardiola has been he's been caught out, and he will eventually. He might turn it around, he might not. But the one thing he's got to do now is he needs to respond, because if he does not respond, he is going to be left behind by Ancelotti in charge of Everton. He's going to be left by Klopp managing Liverpool. He's never going to get left by Frank Lampard. That's never going to happen. Just saying now.
You got them with Lampard last season at Stamford Bridge.
Oh, we're the same. There's no way. Even for us, Man United, we beat them 3 times out of 4, but we played them on the counter attack, and we were fortunate to get results. That doesn't mean anything. You've got to be able to neutralise it.
City for me are an interesting one as well, because they get accused of throwing money at problems. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, they've got a massive problem at the moment. They haven't thrown enough money at it, have they? If they're really that sort of team, for me, they haven't thrown money at the problems. Chelsea have thrown more money at the problems than City have in this window. Do you know what I mean? And and that's the thing. You would have thought really, if we're all I'm not a City fan, but I don't hate City. I don't have a problem with City as a Londoner. It don't really bother me. Northern clubs doing well or whatever. But at the end of the day, David Silva was aging. They knew he was leaving. They knew he was leaving at the beginning of the season, right? They knew Kompany was going to be leaving 6 months before he did. They never really went out and replaced them straight away. And I think the sign of any good team is you go and replace those players while they're still there. So then that transition is so much easier. You know, like Phil Foden, for instance. I think Phil Foden is going to be a fantastic player, but he should have been far more involved. He should have been far more involved earlier on. Because now David Silva's not there and he can't learn. Like I know we're talking about completely different levels of like talent and player. Like when I mentioned this, but we had Scott Parker. Mark Noble learned everything he knew from Scott Parker, and then Declan Rice to some extent has kind of learned stuff from like Noble, and like you see that transition is there, and it's a smoother process. And I just think Manchester City, unfortunately, they just missed a beat. They really did. They just missed the opportunity to just have this flawless transition, and now they're left with this team that is just it has no balance. He's got absolutely no balance. This team.
Well,
but the problem is he was expecting Laporte to be that. He was expecting Laporte to be that immediate replacement, but he went and injured himself, and he was out for like 8-9 months. But he was fortunate because of lockdown that he was able to come back and play. But he still wasn't enough.
But he's never had that partner. He's never had a proper like defensive partner. And I think like a lot of people will talk about strikers being the most important, you know, player in the team because they scored the goals. That defensive centre back partnership is so important. You look at any great team that has gone on to win things, you know. Like Chelsea had Carvalho and Terry. United have had loads down the years. Bruce and Pallister, Ferdinand, Vidic. Like you can go through. Every team always had good centre back partnership. And Laporte, unfortunately, he's that player who goes, "Who am I playing next to this week?" He doesn't like, and I don't think that helps, especially when a player's as good as Laporte is.
And it says all really.
To that point, Dan saying too, you know, if we look on Phil Foden, I remember there's games in the Carabao Cup or games in the Premier League, so they were winning cups. But you took Phil Foden off at half time. You know, he took Phil Foden at half time and didn't let him go out and be more of a free roam and let him get more of experience within the pitch and give him confidence. Like, you know, what does it tell a youngster if you're getting taken off at half time, an absolutely meaningless game, not to play in a meaningful game at the weekend? So I think that kind of says it all. I don't know if it's Phil Foden's pressing or if it's defensive work off the ball that maybe Pep Guardiola doesn't like, because I know that's why Frank Lampard doesn't use Hudson-Odoi for that particular reason. And also to the point about, you know, Pep being stubborn. I remember against Leicester when he played 4-2-3-1, he wanted to play 2 DMs to give the back four more experience. But he had the 2 DMs ended up playing up with the strikers because of how stubborn he is. He tries to change the formation to make it more defensively solid, yet it ends up being the same way as what it was previous. And that is why he'll not win the Champions League.
Well, he's one of his biggest problems where he's been found out at the moment is that his fullbacks have always played as auxiliary centre midfielders. If you watch enough Manchester City, you'll always notice that Kyle Walker will come and tuck in, and he becomes almost like a centre midfielder, so that he becomes an option for the triangle passes, and it's vice versa the other side. The trouble is they've been found out because the minute they push in and they become that auxiliary midfielder, if the other team wins it back, they just channel that ball because there's always space, and like this is the trouble. If Pep really wants to go down as one of the greatest to ever do it, and I don't think any of us can really question that, like he's a bad manager. I don't think he is. But if he wants to go down as one of the greatest, he has to come away from this. I'm only doing it this way. He's got to evolve because football's changed.
Because I respect what he said. Like he said it repeatedly, and he's repeatedly said it wherever he's went. It's my style. I'm going to play with this style. I'm going to succeed with this style. Yeah, that's fine. I understand that. But even the greatest managers have had to evolve. I mean, like, you look at Sir Alex Ferguson, he played 4-4-2 from when he joined the club in 1986. He was a 4-4-2 manager when he was at Aberdeen when they won the Super Cup against Real Madrid in 83. He had that formation, but then you got to 2004, 2005 when we were torn apart by Jose Mourinho's fresh 4-3-3. He brought the European style to the Premier League. Within 2 years, Sir Alex Ferguson has said 4-4-2, I'm done with you, and I'm playing the 4-3-3. And then we went on to win 3 league titles, the Champions League. We won everything because of evolution and adaptation to different styles.
And that ability to change. It's that ability to change as well. You know, it's like not being scared to step outside your comfort zone and try something new.
Exactly.
You really interest Ham because, you know, I think David Moyes played, was it 4-2-3-1? I think he started with. It didn't work. It was atrocious. He got ripped apart. He switched to 5-4-1, and yet West Ham are a tough team to beat. If you really do change to suit what your team is best at, it makes things 10 times harder.
I do think as well one of City's biggest problems at the minute is they can't finish their dinner. You know, like unless Aguero's on that football pitch, they can't finish their dinner. And the thing is as well, they're expecting a 31, 32-year-old Aguero to still be doing what he was doing when he was 27, 28. That is another issue again. You know, like they've not addressed that issue. And City always get accused of being one of these teams that just throws a lot of money at their team, but they haven't thrown a lot of money at the areas that they need to. You can go and spend £400 million on your defence over 3 years, but if you're not going to go and sign a good striker,
there's two things about that. One, Aguero's leaving at the end of the season. Okay, he'll be joining the company and David Silva and leaving. And two, he's not. It looks like he's starting to get injury prone.
Yeah,
I think it's his third injury in 2 seasons now too.
And thirdly, add to that quickly. I'll just quickly say this and I'll let you go, Doug. Thirdly, as well, Micah Richards has said it now, not once, not twice. He said it 3 times now. You break that first press for Man City, you've won. Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter if Man City score 1 goal or if they score 2. You're going to put 3 past them, because if you break that first press, you're not getting stopped, and it's because they're just not effectively planning.
That's exactly what Leicester did.
Exactly, and it says all the fact that he's now playing a 4-2-3-1 with 3 wide attacking midfielders, yet they're not effective either. Like De Bruyne playing on the right hand side, yes, he's getting goals, he's getting assists, but he's inhibited out on the right hand side, and that's down to poor management. He should be in the middle, effective around the middle, because that's where he's most effective. Yeah, he's outside the right hand side thinking, I can be the Belgian David Beckham. Sorry, mate, never in his league. Yeah, but yet he still has an effect.
Also, Dan is here. Someone's asked this question. Someone tell me Antonio isn't fit for the weekend.
It's true. Apparently, he's picked up a hamstring injury.
Oh,
that's why he went off. He went off. I think he went off in like the 50th minute against City, and I think they were like, we'll do it as a precaution so he doesn't hurt himself more. I think he might have done his hamstring, but he's got hamstring problems. This is the thing with West Ham, though. We know that he's got problems with his hamstrings. We know they go after 10 games. They get stressed because of the way he's built and the way he runs. That's the problem with him. Yeah. He's built like brick shithouse, but he can run at 100 miles an hour. His body shouldn't be able to do what it does. And I just think he picks up these little knocks. And so, yeah, it looks like Haller's going to probably have to come in, and he'll look like the laziest fuck that he always does up front.
That's a huge blow.
Yes, it is massive. It's massive, bro.
Antonio has a fantastic record against Liverpool. He loves scoring against Liverpool.
Well, Antonio at the minute, Doug, is only, other than Harry Kane, he's the highest scoring striker in the league since lockdown finished, since Project Restart. So I think Kane's got 12, Antonio's got 11, and I think he's scored in something like 6 back-to-back away games. Yeah, he's mental. Yeah. He's flying at the minute. It's such a shame that he's picked up an injury.
And Jeannie's puts a very good point.
Pointed out earlier on. Yeah, like he is.
Nathan Morgan, good evening to you. I saw you said good afternoon, which was very, very weird. Question from Manchester City would be: would they trust Jesus to lead the line up front, or would they?
He's injured too.
Get a top striker in. Personally, I can see Inaki Williams going to Manchester City.
That's a good shout, but personally, I don't see Inaki Williams as a City striker. I think they're going to go guns blazing. I think they're going to do what they always want to do. They want to show their financial muscle. They want to get one over their rivals. They're going to go to Man United. We're going to go for your top target. We're going to sign Erling Haaland.
No, but I believe I've seen somewhere Jesus is out until the middle of out until the middle of December. And also, question: does this mean Yarmolenko is going to be the striker against Liverpool? So that seems like what Moyes' alternative option has been.
Well, then that tells you how much he thinks of Haller, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It just shows you that Moyes sees how lazy Haller is, and he ain't going to have any of it. And I quite like that. I've got to be honest with you, I quite like it. If he thinks he's going to get more out of Yarmolenko up front, and he is Haller, then I like the fact that he's just going to go, no, you sit on the bench until you can be bothered to work.
Yeah, I like that. I respect that as well. Says it all that he was willing to risk. Even though he no longer plays for you, he was willing to risk a injury-crazed Andy Carroll than Sebastian Haller, and that's because Haller is an absolute piece of garbage.
He's lazy. He's just lazy.
He's so arrogant. He's more interested in money.
He can't play. I think Dan knows this because Pellegrini tried it. He cannot play in a one-man.
No, he can't. But the thing is, any team he's been at. Any team he's been at, if you look at any of the teams he's been at, when he was at Utrecht in Holland, he played with a partner. When he was at Frankfurt in Germany, he played in a free, and that's when he had his success. And whenever he played with Antonio, he's always looked really good, and he almost comes alive because he knows that he can play off a striker. But the minute you bang him up on himself, when he has to run the lines, he has to run the channels, he can't be asked to do that.
Let's be fair,
French.
Moisey will never play a front two ever.
They're a mismatch in football.
I'll never see Moisey play front two.
Especially against we've got Liverpool the weekend. He ain't going to play. He ain't going to play a two against Liverpool, is he? So
No way. No.
You know,
not unless he does a 5-3-2, and I hardly doubt him doing that either.
Exactly.
But it says it all, really.
Kieran Dolan has hit this right on the head here. Haller's coming from a Frankfurt season where he was the man. He reeks of a GSB signing. Do you agree with that?
He was a Sullivan signing. It's well documented. Sullivan signed him because at the end of the day, if you spend £45 million on a striker, the fans will shut up, won't they?
Yeah. Says it all, really.
Mate. But the thing is, the board think that us fans are stupid. We can read them. We know what they're trying to do. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I think David Gold was on Twitter earlier tweeting out about something that the team's like one of the best starts the team's had. Like, I'm really proud of the team. You read the comment section on that tweet. It's all GSB out, fuck off, leave the club. Like, no one gives a shit about what he said. They're just like, the fans just like, stop trying to turn this around. Like, it's the same way.
It's the exact same with Man United fans. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, Man United doesn't matter what the admin tweets on Twitter. It's United fans saying, "Get the fuck out! You didn't sign who we wanted. You're draining the club." Like all this, and we're like, "Well, we're not stupid."
When fans have had enough, there's no coming back from it.
That's a good
Cornelius.
Cornelius,
I remember him.
I remember him at Aston Villa.
I have a question for all of you for here and for the chat, and I feel like this is a serious question that actually means quite something in the long term of football.
Bring it.
All right. So we talk about Corona could be ruining football because of financial. But here's the true question: are modern day owners in football ruining the Premier, ruining football in the long term and making it more of a business than a sport?
It's been
100%, yeah.
Unfortunately, it's been that way since Roman Abramovich took over Chelsea.
I would go further back than that. I would go back further.
But no, I'm not. I generally think that Roman Abramovich changed English football when he bought Chelsea because he bought money to the league. You know, like the Premier League is worth like mental, like £7 billion a year to the clubs, basically, that's shared amongst those clubs on a yearly basis in prize monies, in sponsorship, in all this sort of stuff. Right, this league 20 odd years ago was not. You couldn't have said that. When Roman Abramovich bought Chelsea, he changed English football as we know it because he opened the door for other foreign owners to come in and buy up other clubs. It was essentially it's as simple as that. I'm not saying that Roman is like the sole reason that the Premier League is the way it is. But he is a catalyst because what he did is other Russian billionaires and Chinese millionaires, whatever. They've all gone, oh right. That's something we can do. I might do that. And then, as you've seen, Fulham are owned by, an American fellow who owns the Jacksonville Jaguars, doesn't he? You've got,
and he's a waster.
Yeah, you've got Liverpool owned by an American consortium. Man United owned by Americans. You've got Leicester. They're owned by Chinese or Thai or something along those lines, aren't they?
Thai owners, I think.
At the end of the day, all
City are owned by
people,
Saudis.
Yeah, all these people have. These are all pushed from that Chelsea being bought. It's as simple as that. And the minute that happens, and the minute all this money starts coming into the league, things are going to change. And
the only reason Abramovich bought Chelsea is because he didn't want to see Arsenal winning all the time. But mind you, that's because Man United were dominating the league. Chelsea were just naive.
The rumour is that he tried to buy. He tried to buy Spurs, wasn't it? Spurs or Newcastle? One of the two. He tried to buy them first.
I think it was Blackburn because Graham Souness was in charge at the time, and obviously Graham Souness was the man driving.
But yeah,
Graham Souness drove him to a football game, and they discussed it.
It was a club. He tried to buy one. He tried to buy another club before he tried to buy Chelsea. It didn't work out for whatever reason, and then Chelsea were fucking on their knees, weren't they? They were so skint at the time, and then he went in there and basically turned them around.
The biggest disgrace, though, in football was the Premier League owners' means test, because obviously in 1998, United nearly got taken over 600 million, but the fans rightfully got involved because the fans didn't trust it. That's fine. That's well within their right not to trust a new owner, because obviously there was a big broadcasting. They wanted to still make Man United even bigger, but we would have had a team filled with megastars, and we would have we would have went on and maybe won everything, but it wouldn't have been Man United. It would have been like the English Real Madrid, and obviously eventually we would become that. When Sir Alex and David Gill left, we became that Galacticos movement. But The Premier League owners' means test is disgusting because you had Liverpool that were owned by the Gillette wanker. You've got Abramovich came in single-handedly. He came in and changed it up, but there's no the means test doesn't fail.
Honestly, they bled the club dry. We were almost in administration. Like, that was highly documented. Liverpool were nearly out in administration and nearly went out of business because of George Hicks and George Gillette and Tom Hicks, because those two were absolutely awful owners for Liverpool Football Club.
They didn't get along. But it says it all really because obviously coming from a Man United perspective, like, I hate Liverpool, but I wouldn't want Liverpool to go into administration because that's our big rival's gone. Because you want the big rivalry to remain. But then you've got, like, Arsenal are ran by that Stan Kroenke, and he is a disgrace. He is, like, the Glazers are bad. He is evil. Like, he is evil.
And that's the thing. Like, ditto about Manchester United. I would never like Manchester United to go out of business ever.
Yeah.
Because you want that rivalry. Same with Everton. I don't want them to go out of business because you've got the same rivalry with them as well.
Yeah.
But it's honestly, I think football at this moment in time, with people with this European Super League, which is for me I'm
totally opposed to that.
Absolute nonsense as well. That's been driven by the Glazers, Ed Woodward. It has been driven by Liverpool and the American owners as well. So, I mean that really bugs me as well. But it's getting to a stage now where football is now becoming a business now. There's more money in the game now. There never used to be.
Sorry, Doug, just to jump in there, the Super League is actually already funded, $6 billion worth of funding, and it's
JP Morgan.
Yeah, JP Morgan are the ones that are driving.
And who are they linked? And who are JP Morgan linked to heavily? Manchester United. The Glazers.
FIFA have already signed off on the Super League. FIFA have already signed off on it and said, it's okay, we want to do it. It's just obviously there's bits to work out, but that Super League will happen. When it happens, I don't know, but it will happen. Unfortunately,
what I would like to know, right? And Josh is doing his usual stand in the back look. But here's a question to all three of you and the chat as well. So guys, get your answers in the chat here. The Premier League means test. I seen Jeannie agreed with me, and like obviously it's good that I got an agreement of a Liverpool fan. That very rarely happens. But the Premier League means test for owners. You see that Mike Ashley has tried to sell Newcastle pretty much since he bought the club in 2009. Someone correct me if there's a Newcastle fan in the chat. I don't know when he first completely bought the club. So I'm saying 2009 because that's what I can remember. How can they justify saying that the Saudi consortium that wanted to buy Newcastle, funds were there to buy it, yet they say no, yet they're willing to allow the Glazers in, who have done nothing for their so-called elite club of the Premier League, which is Man United. Like, pretty much, when you think of the Premier League, you think of Man United automatically because of like the success. They bring all the media attention, and that's no disrespect to Chelsea. That's no disrespect to Liverpool, as much as I dislike both. It's fact. But you've also got Saudi owners, like there's no doubt, like they would have brought money to the club, but you see that there are owners in India that own, like the Ambani family has been called upon by many Manchester United fans over the years because they own the Super League themselves, they own clubs, they own cricket franchises, and they'll say foundations, that's disgusting, cricket franchises, so they're clearly involved in sport. What I'm going to ask now, and this is for everybody, the Premier League means test, what is the point? Because it clearly shows that if you have people who are genuinely interested in buying a team and want to invest, and then they're denied because the Premier League decided to go with the words, we didn't hear a word about it. Who is making these decisions? Is it the FA or is it there's an external party that's doing it?
The trouble
Who's
you've
doing
got,
these decisions?
The trouble you've got with the Newcastle one, it's not a great example to use because that was rejected on human rights issues. That fella's known for.
But the FA didn't respond after 6 months to that.
Yeah, I know, worse. but the trouble is, it's all confidential. They're not from a legal standpoint. They're not obligated to release that to us. the fans, like they're not obligated to do it. But the trouble with that is the one with the Newcastle one is it was human rights issues. It was nothing to do with money. Like at the end of the day, that geezer's worth 360 billion. There's going to be no problems. There's going to be no risk. Like my brother-in-law works in risk. Like he works in making decisions on like businesses buying other businesses and fighting. A lot of money moving around, and so like I know a little bit about this. There was going to be no risk at all where that was concerned, but unfortunately, you have to look where that money comes from, and you have to find out, what these people do to make their money. Unfortunately, that Saudi owner apparently has ties to human trafficking and all sorts of stuff. He's not a very nice person, and so they didn't want him involved.
I'm against that.
Yeah. But the thing is, then you have to look at that from the FIFA and the FA's point of view, and you can see why they won't want a man like that owning a football club. You kind of got to see. But I know it. But to the other side of your point, though, Reece, if there is someone with a lot of money willing to invest, and the books are clean, and they are clean, and it gets rejected, questions have to be asked why. Because if someone like, I'm not being funny, Roman Abramovich is a good example. It's dirty oil money. The same with the Saudis that own City. It's filthy oil money. Do you know what I mean? Like, but they're deemed okay to own football clubs. So
because if you look at Man United, like we generate around 630, 650 million a year. We could effectively say to the Glazers, "Fuck off," because we could sustain. The fans could effectively own.
Your debt is,
but our debt is so massive, and that's because
huge,
there was self-imposed debt by the Glazers. They put it onto the club when they bought it, and that's down to poor management. And obviously, the fans rebelled against it, yet they still went and done it anyway. And that says, you're willing to back the fans in 1998 when you're about to sell for £680 million, yet an American conglomerate come in who have wasted one of America's NFL franchises as well. You're willing to accept them in anyway, so you're going against the fans regardless. So no wonder fans decided to create a new club. But this means test. If you're just going to let clowns in, then it should be scrapped.
Can I just put a couple on a point that Yeti Boys made? I am absolutely astonished by this. I'm a Leicester fan, and some of our fans don't like our owners.
How? Wow. I mean, they delivered a league title.
They delivered you guys a league title.
Is there something behind? Is there something I don't know about? Obviously, that's what I'm asking because I know they delivered a league title.
The Leicester City fan. Now, obviously have to say rest in peace to the Leicester owner who did die in the helicopter crash. He was truly an utterly great human being, an unbelievable owner. And he was one of the real owners that football leaders all around the world should be following. But obviously, his son is now currently in charge. I specifically remember when they were playing Watford last season in at the Premier League at the King Power, and the Watford away fans brought a banner paying respect to the owner who unfortunately passed away, and he offered to pay. He gave free food and beer to the away supporters, and did that for every single home game for the away fans until COVID hit us. And when COVID hit, he has paid so many contributions. Like the Leicester City fans on and off the pitch for Leicester and off it are incredible human being, and the family that runs that club is a leadership for around the world, and they are one of the most underestimated owners and by far the best owners in the Premier League.
I would have them Man United in a heartbeat. Like I would literally have them right now. Like just because of their proper commitment to a club, also commitment to humanity in the sense of helping out. And it says all that football now is it's not even a sport anymore. It's not even we christened it the beautiful game. Now it's just toxic. It's disgraceful, and it's ruined worse by social media. Twitter has made football the worst sport in existence because you've got fans abusing others or abusing footballers. Like, I think the perfect example, and obviously I don't particularly think he's a good footballer, but you've got the likes of Daniel James, who he isn't a good footballer, but he at least puts effort in. But then you've got other fans who are like, oh, he's fantastic, he's great, but then they'll go and abuse Luke Shaw for his body weight, and I'm like, how fucking dare you?
Can I
like,
just
get to fuck.
Fanboys of like Pogba, like I think there's stuff for like Suarez and
Martial,
etc. Those fans really embarrass themselves when they come out like that. But what's not to like about I'm gonna have to try and pronounce.
Bring it up. I'll try it. Let's see.
Shavad Hanaprava. Would dream to have the Shavad Pravra family is Cardiff owners. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Yeah, boy.
Says it all when you had Vincent Tan as an owner.
Apologies if I've actually just butchered the these surname, but your owners are absolutely fantastic. They were the only ones that said no to the pay-per-view football.
That was actually that was something I wanted to do. I want to ask every single guest we have on this podcast about this until it's done to raise awareness about it. Dan, what's your opinion on pay-per-view?
It's bollocks. It's bollocks. It's simple as that. Like anyone that pays 15 quid as well for a game, you're part of the problem. You are. It's simple as that. Like you might want to watch your team play because you can't go over there at the minute, but you're part of the problem. If you look at some other sports and what they offer for the same price, it's actually criminal what the Premier League are doing in charging that price. Like you can only compare it to other sports. Like I'm a big fan of MMA. UFC's Fight Pass is £10 a month. For a month, and that you can watch as many fights as you want. You can watch all the replays, the prelims. That includes like a ridiculous amount of content. It's £10 a month, and then you've got the Premier League, 15 quid a game. It's absolutely criminal. Like I don't know how they're getting away with it. That's the thing. I don't know how they're getting away with it. And if you're one of these people that pays for the game, you're part of the problem. And the one thing I would say is don't pay. Just don't pay. What I do. At the end of the day, the Premier League's worth enough money. They could offer a streaming service for, say, $5.99 a month, and they would still make so much money because they could just offer a streaming service. Just put every single game at the weekends on that. The Premier League, it owns the rights to the league. It owns the rights to it. This is one of the reasons why 3 p.m. kickoffs can't be on the TV. Is because of the rights and whatnot. Just start your own streaming service.
The problem is that they've not got that sense of intelligence to do it, and they don't care. They're driven by money. Because it's obvious because they've got to pay their investors to do it.
They don't look at the big picture. They don't look at it and they don't look at it and go, right, £5 a month. Like all these fans would probably pay it, or we could just charge 15 quid a game. Yeah, well, 15 quid, that's more than £5. But actually, in the long run, they'd end up making so much more money if they had a streaming service that went out worldwide with the fan base Premier League's got.
Absolutely. Pete Shepherd.
That part annoys me. That one word.
The evidence for the board, and that has nothing to do with the fans. Nathan Morgan says, the thing that really angers me is that all away games in the Championship and EFL is all on pay-per-view for £10 a game. As Dan said, it's criminal, but this is disgusting that the media does not care about this. Jeannie says, be in sport. Yep, absolutely.
I was watching the Man United game the other day. I watched it. I used my PS4. I just watched it on Now TV because it's got nothing to do with the pay-per-view thing. So it's simple as that. I was fine. And yeah, he's right. Could be 100%.
That's a good point as well. Another manager who, it has to be said, and it's quite amazing to say this, is under pressure. I would say. Is Neil Lennon at Celtic. Now, Celtic have had
Josh has come alive.
Terrible week. They lost lost to Rangers 2-0. They lost to AC Milan 3-1. And then, in my opinion, we're very lucky to get a draw against Aberdeen.
It's slaughtering time. I've been waiting for this.
I will give Josh this one. Where is it going?
Just a little quick side note. Dan, do you watch Scottish football, or is this one you're not going to be
on and off? But if it's a farmers' league, isn't it?
Okay, first of all, to say I do not support anyone in the Scottish league. I just followed it as a neutral. I watched
So my dad always my dad's from South London, but my dad always followed Rangers when we were growing up. I don't know. Don't know why. He just did. Rangers were like my dad's Scottish team, and he always followed Rangers. And my dad's a long distance lorry driver, so he's a Newcastle fan because of this. So he used to drive up to Newcastle, go catch a Newcastle game, and then his next tip would be Scotland. And so he'd go up there, and if he had time, he'd go and catch a Rangers game. And so
your dad's got respect for me for eternity.
So
there you go.
The thing about Celtic right now is that Neil Lennon, one, is missing his key man in Anton Edward. He has no clue how to play without Anton Edward. And number two, he does not know his best 11. He has changed from a 4-2-3-1 to a 3-5-2 to a 3-4-3 to a 4-4-2 to a 4-3-3. He doesn't know his best team. I actually looked against AC Milan. He played 6 different formations. He at the full-time whistle, Neil Lennon played 6 different formations. Gerrard, in his whole time this season, has played 2 formations, and that's 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3, or I think he played 4-4-2 once as well in Europa League. Neil Lennon is one of those managers. He reminds me of Zidane in the sense that he has the team, so the team does the work for itself. But tactically, when it comes down to it, he has not a clue. Like, you look at him on the sidelines. I remember against Aberdeen, he just sat there. He just sat there. He just sat there.
Yeah.
He just sat there looking into the sky. Like he isn't up on the side, kind of shouting, kind of clapping his team on. He's just sat there like this. If you see Gerrard on the sideline, Reece will notice Gerrard's yelling and pointing, and
He's animated.
He's animated. Neil Lennon just sits there. It's like
It doesn't matter who Rangers are playing. Steven Gerrard is on that touchline from minute 1 to the minute to start the finish line. I went to every Europa League.
I'm not wrong there. Neil Lennon just sits there, doesn't he? He literally just sits there in his chair and no offense, I think the guy's put on so much bloody weight too. The guy looks fat as hell these days. But
I will say one thing in defence to him, right, is Diego's comment. I agree with that. I hate the fact that starting lineups are being leaked. That should never happen in football. Whoever's doing fuck off out of football.
Don't get me wrong. The starting lineup does not particularly help, but Neil Lennon changing from a back 3 to a back.
That's ridiculous that he is doing that. So is trailing on him.
Dan will know this as Dan will know this as well because Dan loves his way tactical analysis. When you change from a back 3 to a back 4 constantly, you'll never, ever, ever, ever find consistency in football. No, you will never. Like Lampard tried it last year when he switched from a back 3 to a back 4 constantly, and from January to March. How did that go for Chelsea? That was Chelsea's worst run of the season. Managers who constantly stick with a back 3, like Antonio Conte, for example, you get consistency if you change but if you constantly change from back 3 to a back 4 when you're from wing backs to full backs, you will never get consistency in football ever. Neil Lennon, without constantly changing the tactics, without Anthony Edward,
Neil Warnock.
Well, anyhow, it seems to be the.
He is the favourite. He is the favourite. I think that's an absolute weird appointment if that happens.
Well, think about it. Gerrard does really well in Europe every year. Neil Lennon flops. Neil Lennon's flopped in the Europa League. And the only reason why Celtic won the league last year was because Rangers gifted to them. It is as simple as that. If Rangers did not have that flop, Rangers were winning the league.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is now that we don't have this winter break now in Scotland.
It's not happening this time.
It's not happening this time. So I think that's another sort of psychological advantage to Rangers, who I think have been absolutely magnificent, barring 2 results, which was the draw with Hibernian and the draw with Livingston as well.
And the 5 games, I think the last 5 games that Gerrard and Neil Lennon have faced off, Gerrard has schooled Lennon like no tomorrow. He's literally properly schooled him. So, in my opinion, Neil Lennon, 3 questions. Is he a terrible manager? Yes. When you get sacked to Hyde Birmingham, there's something wrong. When Hyde Birmingham are sacking you, there's something wrong. I think Reece would agree with me on that. If you're getting sacked at Hibs, there's something wrong. Is he tactically clueless? And without Anthony Edward, yes. 3, will he be sacked? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually think the way that Celtic are going at this moment in time. I mean, anything can happen. Anything can happen in football. But were Celtic to lose to Aberdeen at the weekend in the cup semi-final, then you might see potentially him going.
No joke. When you talk about Eddie Howe, and I only seen this today, I don't know if you did, so I want you to answer this. Gary Holt is also the second favourite to take over if Eddie Howe doesn't.
That to me is a bad idea if Gary Holt goes for Livingston to Celtic.
Right, so this might sound really disrespectful, but why would anyone want to go and manage Celtic?
I would rather go to a bowling green and play Bulls for 2 hours than manage Celtic.
Don't get me wrong, right? What do you really achieve? What do you really achieve going and managing the powerhouse of Scottish football in a league where no other team can catch up? You're not really going to achieve much. Yeah, you're probably going to win the league season on season. You might win a few cups, like domestic cup competitions, but you're never really going to compete in Europe because you can't put a good enough team together to compete in Europe with a Celtic team. Like Rodgers went up there. Do you know what I mean? He did all that work with Celtic, but was never really competitive in Europe, was it? It's just a pointless job in my opinion.
Brendan Rodgers never came out and actually said it, but he pretty much said it. And if you look at the background, he pretty much said that he left Celtic because it was too easy, and he was never going to. He's never going to.
It's not a challenge. It's not a challenge at all.
For it.
Also, and this is just saying a fact. Brendan Rodgers, he actually overachieved. I mean, it says it all. I mean, like he goes from Celtic to Leicester. Wow, big deal. But he didn't. He was like, and I'm saying this like from a pure perspective of like, I've like obviously watching like, yes, he was dominating the Scottish League and he was winning. He won title after title and he went in that unbeaten run. But anybody with a good team and a good backing in the Scottish League can go 68 games unbeaten. But Brendan Rodgers, he was like, even for Celtic, he was overrated. Like what? Like he did all this and he done all that, but that means nothing. Like it doesn't have that effect.
Neil Lennon got the job on I think it was a caretaker basis until the end of the season when Brendan Rodgers left. Why did he only go? Because he's a legend and it keeps the morale up and all of that stuff. He got the job, one, because that Celtic team was insane, because I think, if I'm correct, he still had Moussa Dembele that year he took over before he left for Lyon. They had Craig Gordon, who was in his prime. He's now at Hearts. That's a real downhill spiral. He had a great team. He was able to go in there as a legend with the morale, with what he did in the past, and go in there, and he got the job full time. It is, I think it's very near enough identical to how Solskjaer got the job at Manchester United.
I just want to say as well in response to Cian's comment, he's mentioned that that Celtic last competed in Europe in 1970, but they were also in the UEFA Cup final against Porto in 2003. Rangers were in the UEFA Cup final in 2008 against Zenit. I was there, but they've won European competitions. But even like back in the 90s, Rangers should have won the Champions League in 1993, but it was Marseille that was Marseille paid off officials. That's why Rangers failed in 1993. It would have been Rangers versus AC Milan. Yeah, that's also a good thing. And that's not me favouritism because I'm a Rangers fan. That's a fact. Like Marseille paid because it's UEFA first time France, and they've got to win something.
Josh, Rangers, are they going to win the league this season? Yes or no?
Absolutely, good question. I think they'll do it. Yeah, I think
we're going to win by like 20 points.
I think they will beat Celtic in all. Is it 4 times you played them? Is it in the Scottish League with the split, isn't it? 4, yeah. You'll beat them 4 times in the league, both times in Ibrox, both times at the Park, and you'll beat them whenever you face them in the Scottish Cup. You'll do the final.
Rangers will win the treble this season. But obviously, we're not. We'll probably go far in Europe. I reckon we'll get quarterfinals in the Europe.
Here's a question.
We're winning.
Here's a question for you, Doug, and reply to your question to me. If Neil Lennon is to be sacked and Gary Holt goes, do you think it's a good move for Gary Holt, and where do you think it puts Livingston?
Oh, do you know what? That's a really good question. I don't think Gary Holt would go to Celtic. I think he's more likely to maybe go to somewhere like a Kilmarnock. And the reason I say that is because he has a Kilmarnock tattoo on him, and he is an ex-Killie player as well. So I think he will go. Back to Kilmarnock. Dan, do you think Rangers will win the league this season?
From what I've seen so far, yeah, definitely. I just don't rate Neil Lennon as a manager anyway. I think he's one of those. He just gets it because the club know him and they like him. I think that's literally it. He's one of those. He's one of those managers. Unfortunately, there's a few managers that sit in this pigeonhole. Alan Pardew, Sam Allardyce. Sam Allardyce. That's not fair because he's actually a good manager. But there's these managers that get top jobs that are not particularly good. Do you know what I mean? Like Alan Pardew, wherever he goes, he has a good 6 months and then he just falls to pieces. Like he's just. And I think Neil Lennon's one of them. People think he's a better manager than he is, so he always gets the good jobs.
Reece, I know what your answer. I know what your answer is going to be, but one of the questions I want to ask you is that,
of course,
who is the English club that Lennon went to? Was it Bolton?
He went to Bolton,
and he really suffered there, didn't he?
Relegated, I think.
Yeah. Can I just no disrespect to Dan, but for someone who probably doesn't know probably more than 50% about the Scottish League, thinks Neil Lennon is a shit manager, says it all.
Yep, he's not wrong.
he does this disappearing act where he just comes and speaks and then he just disappears.
He should change his name to Houdini.
Is it just what happens when your mum makes you dinner this time? There's not much you can do, so I'll multitask.
Should be
one thing I will say is it doesn't matter if Celtic sack Lennon now. They could sack a manager, but Rangers are still winning every competition this season because the team is properly in depth. It can comfortably fit the 4-2-3-1 system, or it can fit a 4-3-3, and there is no weakness. And also, you've got competition, like, and not just in the key position. Like, you've got 4 strikers. When was the last time Rangers had 4 good strikers? But you've also got midfield that win you games.
I was just about to say that with striker because you had Roof who scored that amazing goal in the Europa League, from the halfway.
And then Defoe scored last night.
And then Defoe gets the start against Livingston out of surprise. No one expected that, but scores a goal. Morelos just needs to find his head and his form. He'll bang goals in. Yep. I feel sorry for Jared. That's a pure headache. Even at midfield, Davis come out.
And it says all that Al McGregor's got competition for McLaughlin. McLaughlin's keeping McGregor on his toes.
Centre back. You've got
Balogun.
The only person, in my opinion, and you might correct, the only 2 people that gets into that team without a doubt is one, Jack Tavernier. He has been incredible so far.
Yep.
I think Jack Tavernier's been one of the best players, and what's his name? Oh, I get these guys mixed up. It's not who's the winger? Is it Ryan Jack, or is that the midfielder?
Ryan Kent. So Ryan Jack's the midfield. Ryan Jack's the defence midfielder, but he's those 2 100% are the. If you could pinpoint a Rangers like team sheet, like the first 11, 100% Ryan Jack is in defence midfield, but you've also got Ryan Kent easily on the left wing, and you've got James Tavernier at right back, 100%. But the team can be used in so many ways. Like you could have a midfield of Joe Rebo, Glenn Kamara, and Stephen Davis defence midfield, or you could have the typical midfield of Davies, Jack, and Scott Arfield. This Rangers team now is just as good as the Rangers team that won the league under Walter Smith when we went on that heavy run at the end of the season.
I just have to ask, Stevie Davis, who is our most capped player in Northern Ireland history now after the game against Boston.
Love him to pieces.
He's a slick, solid, consistent midfielder. I will cry, and I mean this, I will cry the day he retires from international football.
He is absolutely fantastic. He is absolutely fantastic, and he's underrated. And he got very little respect at Southampton as well. And he was fantastic at Southampton. He got very little respect, and that says it all, really. That he comes back to Rangers on a loan. First of all, he came back to Rangers on a loan, and then we were like, "No, we'll take him," and we signed him up on the cheap. And he's still performing right now. He's probably the best midfielder in the league by a mile.
Right. Moving on, and this is where Josh can get involved.
Champions League.
This is where you guys can also get involved in the chat as well. Is Frank Lampard running out of time?
Yes.
Josh.
Right, so Chelsea so far this season. Now, to put into hindsight, this has been an extremely weird Premier League season. There's no team in the Premier League this year who is doing extremely well, who's extremely consistent. So I'll put but I've always said this, and Dad will probably remember this from the pre-season thing we did on his Know the Score podcast. When I said there's 2 things about Chelsea, actually 3 things. One, as long as Kepa was in that, we were going to always just be shit. If Kepa was in that the first couple of weeks, we struggled.
Yep.
Number 2, Thiago Silva was never going to sort that defence completely. Has he completely solved it? No. And 3, we have a 3. With Siak being injured, did we have a problem with wingers? Yes, we had to play. We were playing Mason Mount on the left and Pulisic on the right, just to accommodate Mason Mount as a winger. So all those things that I said pre-season became true. And I have always said that Chelsea have bought all these really big players at the wrong time because Lampard never had a pre-season to element. Does Lampard know what his best attacking trio is? No. He doesn't know it because he hasn't had a pre-season to test it. This is what his pre-season is. So, but the thing is, though, Abramovich has always been the one to be unwillingly not give too much time. And I feel like in this case, especially with the way the Premier League is, when I think it's safe to say the league is realistically open for anyone. I'll get to that point. I think
my prediction.
I think this month.
He's right, you know.
When I think what Lampard is doing at the moment is against Sevilla and against I think because I have to admit in the second half at Old Trafford we parked the bus. We did park the bus at Old Trafford in the second half. So Lampard parked the bus. He played, all the Chelsea eyebrows were raised when we seen that Lampard went with a free at the back.
I wanted to punch Frank Lampard.
I was very surprised when that. Now, in my opinion, I think Lampard did that for the sole reason that I think he was going to think Solskjaer was going to stay off the back three, like he did in Paris. So was going to do the same as he did in the FA Cup final and try and match him. But I think Lampard is most definitely putting his Jose Mourinho self, and he's basically saying defence first and attack second. I think he's trying to build from the back. He's trying to get a solidity with the back five, and then as time goes on, he'll hope that the individual brilliance of Fernand Havertz, along with team chemistry, will get the attack. And if that works or not, I don't know. But I think for the key thing, and again, Dan will probably remember this, I just knew that Frank Lampard trying to handle these big names and the big pressure was going to come back to bite him.
What I will say as well, big problem is you talk about the players he's got and you talk about where he's going to be best sitting. Frank Lampard's biggest problem as well isn't just managing big name players. Obviously, he's got to settle on a system. I think it was last week, I said play three at the back. But I'm thinking he doesn't need Ziyech in his team. Like, frankly, and I'm not saying that because Ziyech isn't a bad player. Ziyech is fantastic. What I'm saying is he's got Pulisic, who's a fantastic winger, who you could play on the left-hand side. He's got Callum Hudson-Odoi, who, frankly, he doesn't even use. You could use him on the right-hand side, and you could rotate between... Yeah, no, but what I'm saying... Yeah, but what I'm saying is you could rotate Havertz and Ziyech for the attacking midfield role, and then in your double pivot, you could have the likes of Jorginho or Kante playing beside Kovacic, who frankly is your best midfield player, hands down, is Kovacic. And then you could effectively play a 4-2-3-1. Kovacic and say Jorginho, Havertz and Ziyech rotating the attacking midfield role, Pulisic on the left-hand side, Callum Hudson-Odoi on the right, Werner up top. Job done. Chelsea sorted.
I'm going to say the most guy. Everyone here is going to rip me in the chat. All three of you are going to give me strange looks. I officially made my decision that this summer, N'Golo Kante should be sold. He is not the player that he used to be. Against Manchester United, he was given the ball away far too many times. He cannot play the ball forward. He can't supply the attacking threat. That is exactly why Jorginho has been playing.
Right, I need to interject. I need to interject.
I need to correct you.
No. The biggest problem at Chelsea is Lampard. Lampard is not a good football manager. Lampard is at Chelsea for the same reason that Solskjaer is at Manchester United. It's the status within the football club. All right. At the end of the day, they put these men in charge because they thought the players would look at them with that legend status and that instant respect would happen and that you would get a reaction. Lampard is one of the most naive managers in the league. He doesn't know how to set up defensively. They are awful from set pieces. They've conceded more corners than any other team in the time that he's been at Chelsea. He's a poor manager. He is the problem. And the trouble that you've got at the moment, he tried to play Football Manager in the summer. He was given an open checkbook. He went and spent 200 million on players he didn't need. He spent money on Havertz, Ziyech. You didn't need them. You had Hudson-Odoi. You had Mount. You had all these players that come through last year. You didn't need those players. You needed a back four. You needed a left back. You needed a right back. You needed centre back. Like, he spent the money in the wrong area. He's not a good manager. And Solskjaer is not a good manager. But it's they just wanted this. They just do this thing where they go, right, the legend will come and it'll be like Jesus, it's going to be amazing.
It is well documented. Lampard was only hired because Sarri left because of the transfer ban. Sarri would have likely been in charge last season if we didn't have the transfer ban. And it's also been well documented that Lampard was the only manager who would take the job with the transfer ban. They tried to get Eric Ten Hag. Eric Ten Hag said no. Maurizio Sarri wanted out. Allegri said no. So Lampard was the only one who's going to accept the job. So that is why he's here at the moment. And he was never going to get sacked last season, no matter how bad Chelsea did, because of the ban. So that is why he's in. That's why he's in the books at the moment. That's why he's here. Could you say Chelsea were not going to get top four because Mourinho had injury hit Spurs? You probably could say that was probably why Chelsea got top four, because Spurs were injury hit. But I think Lampard has shown promise, but I think the defensive lapse has absolutely.
It's fact.
I think the defensive lapse of Chelsea have been costly, and I think that's why Lampard is going to will go for the defence and hope that the attack can find itself.
Yeah, the trouble is that's why I make that comparison to Football Manager. It works in a computer game. It don't work in real life. If you don't have the ability to defend, and do that job and break play up to then use your attacking players to counter attack, you're going to get found out. And Lampard has been found out on more than one occasion.
That's why I'm so reluctant for Man United fans when they always say, "Oh, we've got to play a midfield of Van de Beek, Bruno, and Pogba." No, because it's not balanced. You play that midfield, we're gonna lose every game, and that's no disrespect to those lads. They're three fantastic.
Well, and obviously, to come back to the original. To come back to the original point as well, Josh, I don't think that it's that Kante's finished. I don't think it's that Kante's selling.
It's a bad coaching.
For the last 2 years, he's been played out of position. He's one of the best. He's one of the best in that Makelele role of literally breaking up play, passing it off. He treats the ball like a hot potato. Track it, win it, get rid of it. That's what he's best at. When he's got to be there on the edge of the box, that's not his game. Of course, he's going to lose the ball.
To your point, so obviously Kovacic was the Chelsea Player of the Year, the Chelsea Player of the Season last year. Has now been on the bench for a couple of weeks. Now the reason why this is because Lampard's playing the 4-2-3-1 is my information, except for the United game. He is trying to obviously put Havertz at number 10, meaning that you have to play a pivot. Now, he's trying to play Kante as a CDM, which he did towards the end of last season in a 4-3-3 to play Kante back in his deep position. But in that position, he's playing Jorginho because Jorginho will supply the ball to the forwards, which Kante can't do, meaning Kovacic has sacrificed to confine Kai Havertz. The only way Lampard can undo that is by dropping Kante to play Kovacic to Jorginho, because Jorginho's not going to be dropped in that system because of he's the only one he plays. He plays those really good long balls up the middle to Timo Werner. So it is literally Lampard trying to find the right balance, to try and find the right consistency. But to answer the question about is Lampard running out of time, if Lampard does not get this team consistent by Boxing Day, he is gone by 2021.
So here's my follow-up question to you.
I think he'll be given the season. Let me just jump in. I think he'll be given the season simply for the fact of his status.
Well, to that point, the Athletic, the Athletic of Sam and Johnston and the Golden Nazir, who is the two most reliable Chelsea correspondents, they actually said that the board held a meeting the other day, and Lampard, all they know is that Lampard will not be given the season. He is on a time limit if things don't change. I don't know what the details are.
But at the end of the day,
I said end of November because I'm sincere.
You cannot blame Abramovich if he does sack him. If they're sitting somewhere, if you've spent £200 million plus and you can't compete. I said this to you in the podcast we did, lads. I said to you both, if at the end of the season, Chelsea have not won the league, but they're 20 plus points off the top, he'll get the sack because they spend that sort of money. He wants you to be 2 or 3. They would accept that. A second or third and be 3 points off, they would accept that. But if you're 10 plus points off, they're not going to accept that after that money spent. That's a lot of money. More money than any other club in the window.
It's the same with Solskjaer at Man United. Like considering where we were, we finished ahead of Chelsea on goal difference, but we were arguably lucky due to circumstance we were able to finish in the top 4. I still said we were finishing third in the seat, in the league, and I'm actually glad we did. But that circumstance to how the season ended, frankly, it should never have been how it ended. But you look at how it is now, and frankly, Lampard is on thin ice. Solskjaer as well. I cannot as much as whoever's in charge of Man United, I will back them from day one to day dot, whenever that is the day they leave on their own free will after achieving success, or they're sacked. But the fact of the matter is this is for Lampard or Solskjaer to get right, they do need results, because obviously football is no longer about continuity, it's no longer about consistency, it's no longer about giving time, it's about result. If you don't get the result, you're gone. Lampard, he's got to get the results in. I'm surprised we've left out one player for Chelsea who actually had quite a decent run of games last year, he played in a similar role beside Kovacic in one game, Billy Gilmore.
Yeah. He had knee surgery. He's out for up to 8 months. He was up for
is he?
Yeah, he was out for up to 8 months from that game against Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park, so you won't see him until the new year due to injuries.
Oh,
He's not
he was the only one. He's the only one I was thinking of because he played like I watched him a few times last season. The games I actually saw Chelsea when he played, and he was so consistent in that number 6 role. And I'm like, arguably he could be a good option. But obviously, you want a more experienced option in there. But Kovacic and Jorginho is good going forward behind Havertz or Ziyech in the number 10 role. Leave Pulisic and Hudson-Odoi as your natural wingers in the wing roles, and you're fine.
Here's a question. Reece already kind of answered. Here's a question to Doug. So when we played you in the Premier League, even though it's a bit before before Christensen got sent off, did you see much of an improvement within Chelsea from last year, or did you see Lampard do enough the same things with the new players?
I think we actually limited you to like a few chances. I can only remember like Werner had a shot, I think. But to be honest with you, there's just something about Chelsea right now. I think they have improved. Like going forward, I think they're fantastic. But you needed to fix that defense. You needed to fix goalkeeper. I think you have that now with Mendy. But are like you just put Petr Cech in your 25-man squad because you can't rely on Kepa and you can't rely on Caballero. And there's talk now that with Mendy getting injured on international duty, he seems injury prone. Now, if that's the thing with Chelsea, if we see Petr Cech, I'm going to laugh my absolute backside.
Same.
The only time I can see Petr Cech playing is at the last game of the season in a meaningless game with top 4 being secured. That's the only time we'll see Petr Cech this season. And see, there's no point me asking Dan about us playing West Ham, because when West Ham play, no matter who our manager is, no matter who the West Ham manager is, they turn into prime Barcelona. They somehow always outscore us and defend for their lives. There's just no point even asking them, because we'll probably lose to West Ham once this season if it's at the Bridge or at the London Stadium, but we will lose once because they always outplay us. No matter if it's Sarri, Lampard, Conte, Mourinho, West Ham always get one.
I think letting him go was a bit of a mistake, to be honest. I know that sounds a bit rash because also a lot of folk thought the style of football was boring, but frankly, Maurizio Sarri can coach a team. Obviously, it didn't go well during that one season, but he still won the Europa League, 4-1 win over Arsenal, which was hilarious. He got to the Carabao Cup final, but obviously that final was him gone. Like the minute Kepa refused to come off, like his job he was done. It didn't matter where you finished in the league, but
the effort that was put in at the end, it had in that 6-1 defeat, to City, was just the players put Sarri in a position that no manager should ever be in. The players let Sarri down big time. The likes of David Luiz, Antonio Rudiger, Olivier Giroud, Callum Hudson-Odoi, they're managers who let Sarri down. And whenever the players are never on your side, no matter what manager you are, the players not on your side in that dressing room, you have no chance of getting anywhere at a club.
And it says it all really when you've had the same sort of players since 2013. United have had similar players since 2011 onwards. And the fact of the matter is, these players are still going to throw managers under the bus. So, and the problem, like Chelsea are lucky they've got a board and an owner that'll flood money. United have got a board that don't know how to work with football, and they've got owners that would rather take money out and suck us dry. They don't have that understanding of football, and that's why United are going to drop. I've said Lampard sacked end of November. I'm sticking with it, and it won't be Kepa. Frankly, he can't keep a secret, let alone run a football club. I think if Lampard goes, I think it'll be Allegri to take over Man United. Goose heading to the end of the season.
Just to say, after the Southampton game where Kepa played in that, can we all just say Kepa was atrocious in that game?
Always is.
The other game, but that game was just. That game. Anyway, it is actually.
Can you remind me of like how much Chelsea paid for him? Was it like 71 point?
74 million euros.
Doug, shush. You just stay quiet, all right? You just Yeah,
71 million pounds.
Just remember, Karius cost you a Champions League final. Karius cost you a Champions League final. He literally dropped the ball in the net for you to not get another trophy.
You had the chance to get Alisson.
They could have got Oblak or Donnarumma. They could have signed Donnarumma, had 1 year left on his contract.
Just remember, Karius dropped the ball.
Bellens.
just for Real Madrid. Just remember that. Right? That ruined your year. Just keep that in mind, Doug. Just keep that in mind.
Oh, of course.
Aye, well, Virgil van Dijk's gone, but Virgil van Dijk's gone, but Chelsea don't exactly have much else either. But this is still funny.
I said this to a guy here. One of the biggest I work with is a Man United guy, and I think Henderson being on the bench at Manchester United gives a real kick up the backside. To David De Gea, because De Gea's played out of his skin now. So I think that that I was hoping that Mendy would give a similar reaction to Kepa. Not the case. It is actually believed that this is currently Czech is still trying to get fit. So what the Chelsea order of goalkeepers are going to be from the new year is Mendy's going to be number 1, Czech going to be number 2, who's going to be on the bench. Caballero is going to be number 3.
He should be starting.
Kepa is going to be the 4th choice keeper, and Kepa will be gone on loan.
Caballero should be your starting goalkeeper. Says he's your best goalkeeper.
No.
Kepa was going to go out on loan apparently, but his wages are monstrous.
Just to anyone who does not know this, Petr Cech is 38 years old. Willie Caballero is 40 years old. Just remember
Caballero can actually do a good job in goals. There's a difference. Kepa couldn't do a good job if you gave him a pay rise.
I feel your pain there. Guys,
right.
It's been absolute fantastic.
We missed the Champions League, Doug. We didn't even discuss the Champions League, mate.
I know.
Abuse.
I know, but this is the thing. This is the thing when you get into big debates like that.
That's what this podcast is about.
It's been another fantastic podcast. Dan, very, very big thank you for coming on the podcast as well. Where can we find you on your socials?
You can find me at Dan FXG on Twitter, and if you go on the YouTube, I would say probably search for Know the Score podcast channel. That's probably the best one to come and watch. We're actually going to be live tomorrow night from 8 p.m. for anyone that wants to come and tune in. We're going to be talking all things Premier League. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
No problem. Reece, big thank you again. Where can we find you on your socials?
Just that, United for Life 14 on Twitter. Get amongst it. I put quite a contentious tweet up last night that's been hitting like all the likes pretty much. So if anyone sees that and has got a contentious opinion, drop a comment because I'm looking forward to seeing what people think. But that's it really, and you can find me here on my show, the World of Football podcast. Thank you all. It's been a great show.
Josh, big thank you again, and he's gone back into the dark. Look at him.
Also, Cian, you're a good guy, mate. Shout out to Cian.
He couldn't wait to turn that light off. He's got himself a tan during the course of this podcast, hasn't he?
I have to be known on the internet for something.
Cian Dolan with the last comment of the night. By the way, it's the last today. Gog scored against United. I was there.
You utter.
And on that note, it is time to end. Thank you everyone who's obviously watched, and thanks to everyone who's commented as well. We're going to be live again next week at 7:00, and we've got another fantastic guest with you next week as well. But until then, it is goodbye from me. If you do like this content, please hit the subscribe button, smash the like on this video. Also, can you go over to Dan 3 channels, Know the Score podcast, Dan FXG and Dan FG. Please go and give him a subscribe. It's 3 fantastic channels, and I'm sure you will enjoy as well. But
they are worth it, folks.
Goodbye from us all, and we'll see you next week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye for now.